The poppy is a symbol of peace, but do you know why? Well, it's because they grew in the battlefields after the First World War, and we wear them now to remember the lives that were lost during that war. But where did war come from in the first place? This ancient guy called Plato once said that only the dead have seen the end of war. But do you agree with that? If you do agree, that's kind of a depressing thought. Now, we all have feelings and emotions that can seem quite ugly and mean, feelings like jealousy and anger. Could it be that wars are because human beings are full of these bad emotions? Or what good are these emotions? For example, what possible good could anger be? Well, anger could be really useful if you happen to be protecting your family, protecting your food, or even being more competitive. War can occur for many reasons, such as tribalism, which is when we form gangs of people and oppose other collective gangs of people. There's also religion, economic gain, which is when we go to war for money or resources that are rare, like oil or water. There's also wars in defence. There are also wars for honour and patriotism, which is devotion to your country or community. An example of this could be during the 80s when the Thatcher government went to war against the Argentinian government over a tiny island called the Falklands. Now, war can result in deaths, fighting, protest, famine, loss of resources, and individuals fleeing the country. These are called refugees. When this happens, it's actually a problem for the entire world, not just the nations that they come from. Life can change drastically during and after the war, and it can leave lasting effects on the countries involved for generations. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is often associated with war and is one of those often ignored consequences. The military forces are in charge of fighting during a war. You might know them as an army. They engineer weapons, heal the wounded, and fight on the front lines, to name just a few of their duties. But the problem is with war is that it affects everybody. You might see war featured on the news and online, and yeah, it is a dreadful, malicious, and scary thing. But as society advances and peace is made between countries, the risk of war becomes smaller and smaller. What's important to remember is that aggression doesn't always lead to war. War is made by man. Just because we're aggressive and want to fight for food and resources doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to lead to something as ultimately damaging as a full-scale conflict.